If I had to start an automated content channel over again from zero today, with everything I know now and none of the stuff I already own, I think I could get there a lot faster than I did and skip almost all of the mistakes that cost me the most time. So that is what this video is. Not a vague pep talk, but the actual path I would take, in order, from a blank screen to a channel that publishes on its own. I would tell you what I would do first, what I would do next, and just as importantly, the things I would flatly refuse to spend money or energy on at the start. Because the truth is, most people who try this quit long before the system ever has a chance to pay them back. And they almost always quit for the same few reasons. So I want to walk the whole road with you, honestly, including the slow and boring parts, so you go in knowing what you are actually signing up for. I am not going to sell you a dream here. I am going to give you the map I wish someone had handed me on day one, with the dead ends already marked. If you have watched the other videos on this channel, you have seen the finished machine in a lot of detail. This one is different. This one is for the person standing at the very beginning, looking at the whole thing, wondering where on earth you are even supposed to put your first hour. So let me give you that order, step by step, the way I would actually do it. So do not buy hardware first. Here is the very first mistake I would refuse to make again. I would not buy any hardware. Not a fancy graphics card, not a new computer, not a microphone, not a single thing. The instinct when you start something is to go shopping, because buying gear feels like progress, and it is a lot more fun than the actual work. But it is a trap. You have no idea yet what your pipeline even needs. So anything you buy now is a guess, and it is usually the wrong guess. You might spend a small fortune on a machine to render video locally, and then discover 3 weeks in that you do not enjoy the niche you picked and you quit anyway. Now you own an expensive paperweight. So instead, I would start entirely with cheap cloud tools that you rent by the month or by the use, a writing model you pay a few dollars for, a voice service that charges you by the minute, a stock footage library with a free tier. You can stitch together a complete working pipeline this way without owning anything at all. And the total cost to find out whether you even like doing this is genuinely small. The point of starting cheap is not to be cheap forever. It is to delay every big decision until you have actually earned the right to make it by doing the work and seeing what hurts. Let the real bottlenecks reveal themselves. Then, and only then, do you spend money to fix the specific thing that is actually slowing you down. Not the thing you imagined would slow you down on day one. And here is the quiet bonus of doing it this way. When you rent instead of buy, quitting is cheap. You can try this for a month, decide it is not for you, cancel everything, and walk away having lost almost nothing. That freedom matters more than it sounds, because it means you can actually start without the weight of a big purchase hanging over you, demanding that you keep going just to justify what you spent. Starting should feel light. It should feel like an experiment you can abandon, not a debt you have to repay. Then pick a niche you can actually speak to. The next decision is the one that quietly decides whether the whole thing lives or dies, and almost everyone gets it wrong in the same direction. They go too broad. They pick something like technology, or productivity, or self-improvement, because a huge topic feels like a huge audience, and a huge audience feels safe. It is the opposite of safe. Broad is a trap. When your topic is enormous, you are competing with everyone. The model writing your scripts has nothing specific to grab onto, and worst of all, you run out of things to say that are actually yours. So I would go narrow, uncomfortably narrow. Narrow enough that you can describe your channel in one specific sentence, and a stranger immediately knows exactly who it is for. And here is the part people skip. It has to be something you can genuinely speak to. You do not have to be the world expert, but you need real opinions, real experience, some scar tissue, something that is actually yours to say. Because the automation is going to handle the voice and the visuals and the publishing, but it cannot manufacture a point of view out of thin air. That part has to come from you. A narrow niche you actually know is a well you can draw from for years. A broad niche you only sort of care about runs dry in about 6 videos, and that is almost always right where people quit. One test I would use is simple. Could you list 20 video ideas in your niche right now, today, off the top of your head, without searching for anything? If you can, the niche is probably narrow enough and close enough to you that the well is real. If you stall out at 5 or 6, that is a warning. It usually means the topic is either too broad to have a clear edge, or it is something you find interesting but do not actually have much of your own to say about. And you can always start narrow and widen later, once you have an audience that trusts you. Starting wide and trying to narrow down afterwards almost never works, because by then nobody can tell what your channel is even about. Now build the smallest possible pipeline. Once you know what you are making and who it is for, the temptation is to go and build something elaborate. Resist that with everything you have. You want the smallest pipeline that can possibly produce a finished video and nothing more. Just 4 steps, a script, then a voice, then visuals, then upload. That is the whole machine. You write a script or you draft it with a model and then rewrite every line so it actually sounds like you. You turn that script into narration with a text-to-speech voice. You lay visuals over the narration, stock footage and simple captions pulled straight from the words. And then you put it on the channel. That is it. That is a complete content pipeline. And every single thing beyond those 4 steps is a feature you do not need yet. No animated diagrams, no custom thumbnails generated by a model, no clever self-checking systems, no analytics dashboards. All of that is real, and all of it is useful eventually, but every piece you add before you have shipped a handful of videos is a piece that can break and stop you from shipping. The goal of version 1 is not to be impressive. The goal of version 1 is to prove the whole chain works end to end, even if the output is a little rough. A rough video that actually exists beats a beautiful pipeline that never produces anything. You can always make each step better later once the bones are in place and you have proven to yourself that you can finish. And there is a real psychological reason to keep version 1 tiny. Every extra step you add is one more thing that has to work for you to publish at all. With 4 steps, when something breaks, you know exactly where to look. With 20 steps, a single silent failure in the middle can stop the whole thing, and you can lose an entire evening just hunting for where it went wrong. Simple systems do not just ship faster. They keep shipping because there is so much less that can quietly fall over. Complexity is a tax you pay every single time you press go, so do not take on that tax until the thing you are buying with it is clearly worth more than the trouble. Then start in the cloud and only move things local later. Now, those of you who have watched my other videos know I run almost everything on my own machine on an old graphics card, rendering offline in my own house. So it might sound strange to hear me say this. If you are starting today, do not do that yet. Start in the cloud, rent everything. It is the same logic as not buying hardware on day 1, just carried all the way through the build. When you are new, your pipeline is going to change constantly. You will swap tools, rewrite steps, throw whole pieces away. Cloud tools let you do that for almost nothing, with no commitment, while you are still figuring out what shape the thing even wants to be. Moving something onto your own hardware is the opposite. It is an investment of money and time and learning, and you only want to make that investment for a step that has earned it. So here is the rule I would actually follow. A step earns a move to local hardware when it repeats often enough, and predictably enough, that the running cost in the cloud starts to genuinely add up. For me, that step was rendering. I render a lot of videos, every render costs money in the cloud, and the work barely changes from one video to the next. That is the perfect candidate to pull in-house, buy the hardware once, and run for free forever after. But a step you only touch occasionally, or one you are still constantly changing, should stay in the cloud where it is flexible, so it is not local versus cloud as some kind of religion. It is cloud first because it is flexible, then local for the few heavy things that repeat enough to pay back the hardware. Let the repetition tell you when, not the excitement. Now let me be honest about the timeline. This is the part nobody wants to hear, and it is the part that matters most. So I am going to be very straight with you. This is slow. Building the pipeline takes real time, and that is before you have made a single thing worth watching. And the pipeline itself only pays you back across many videos, not a few. The entire point of automating the boring work is that the savings are tiny on any one video and only become real when you have made dozens of them. So for a long stretch at the start, it genuinely feels like you are pouring effort into a hole. You are building machinery and writing scripts and the numbers are barely moving, and every instinct in your body is telling you it is not working. That feeling is not a sign you are doing it wrong. It is just what the early part actually feels like for almost everyone, and the people who make it are simply the ones who expected it and kept going anyway. So do not measure yourself in your first month or even your first few months. And please do not start this expecting it to make you money quickly, because it almost certainly will not, and chasing that is the fastest way to burn out and quit. The channels that work are the ones where the person genuinely wanted to make the thing, and the automation was just what let them keep making it without burning out. Consistency, boring as it sounds, beats absolutely everything else. It beats talent, it beats your gear, it beats clever tricks. The person who quietly publishes every week for a year will pass the more talented person who published brilliantly for a month and then disappeared every single time. So here is the one thing that actually matters. If you take only one thing from this entire video, take this. The automation is not the point. It never was. The whole pipeline, the voice, the visuals, the local render rig, every clever piece of it exists to do exactly one job. It exists to make showing up over and over again something you can actually sustain. That is the real product. That is the whole game. The channels that win are not the ones with the smartest system. They are the ones that simply kept going, week after week, long after it stopped being exciting and turned into plain work. The machine does not make your videos good. You do. The machine does not give you something worth saying. You have to bring that. All the system does, all it can ever do, is take the repetitive, draining, momentum-killing parts off your plate so that the simple act of showing up does not slowly grind you down until you give up. That is everything. So if you are sitting there today with nothing, no fancy gear, no audience, no perfect plan, that is honestly the best possible place to start. Pick a narrow corner you actually care about. Rent some cheap tools, build the smallest pipeline that can finish one video, ship it, even rough. Then do it again, and keep doing it long enough that the system you build quietly becomes the reason you never stop. That is the whole path, from absolutely nothing to a channel that runs. I am going to keep breaking down each piece of this in much more detail in the videos around this one. The scripting, the voice, the visuals, the local render setup, each on its own. So if you are actually thinking about starting, subscribe and follow along, and let this channel be the thing that keeps you company while you build yours. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.